This is one of the most quoted verses in the entire Bible, and also one of the most misused. In Matthew 7:1, Jesus says, "Judge not that you be not judged." You've heard it before. Maybe you've said it before. Usually when someone feels criticized. Usually when someone feels exposed. But what did Jesus actually mean when he said this? Let's slow down and read the full statement. In Matthew 7:1-2, Jesus says, "Judge not, that you be not judged. For with the judgment you pronounce you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you." What Jesus is saying here is not that you should never recognize right from wrong. He is not telling you to turn off discernment or pretend that sin does not exist. He is confronting the spirit of condemnation, the attitude that places you in the seat of final authority over someone else's worth. He is warning that the same standard you choose to apply to others will be applied back to you. If you judge harshly without mercy, without humility, without examining yourself first, you are establishing the very scale that will weigh your own life. This verse is not abolishing moral evaluation. It is exposing pride. It is a warning against acting like God while forgetting that you yourself stand in need of mercy. Now listen carefully to that second sentence again. The measure you use will be measured to you. Matthew 7:2. That means when you speak about someone else's failure, you are quietly defining how your own failures will be handled. When you choose severity over mercy, you are choosing the atmosphere you will one day stand in. Jesus is not making a casual comment. He is revealing a spiritual principle. The standard you normalize toward others becomes the standard that shapes your own judgment. That should slow you down, because it's easy to be strict when it's someone else's weakness. It's much harder when it's your own. Then in Matthew 7:3-4, he continues, "Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye,' when there is the log in your own eye?" This image is intentional. A speck is tiny. A log is massive. He is exposing a pattern in the human heart. We are naturally sharp-eyed toward the flaws of others and almost blind toward our own. We analyze, critique, and diagnose everyone else while quietly excusing ourselves. But notice something carefully. Jesus does not deny the speck exists. The speck is real. There is something wrong in your brother's eye. The issue is not whether wrong exists. The issue is blindness to your own condition. Then he says something that changes everything. In Matthew 7:5, Jesus says, "You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye." He calls out hypocrisy directly. And notice again, he does not say ignore your brother. He does not say leave him in error. He says remove your log first. Why? Because pride distorts vision, and humility restores clarity. Only after self-examination can you see clearly enough to help someone else. That means correction is not forbidden. Hypocrisy is. Now listen to what Jesus says in another place. In John 7:24, he says, "Do not judge by appearances, but judge with right judgment." In that moment, people were condemning him for healing on the Sabbath. They were looking at the surface and assuming guilt. They were judging based on rigid rule-keeping instead of understanding God's heart. So Jesus tells them not to judge superficially, but to judge rightly. That means there is a wrong kind of judgment and a right kind. The wrong kind is fast, shallow, proud, and self-exalting. The right kind is careful, humble, aligned with truth, and motivated by restoration. If all judgment were forbidden, Jesus would not command righteous judgment. So Matthew 7:1 cannot mean silence in the face of wrongdoing. It must mean something deeper. And that deeper meaning is reinforced in Galatians 6:1. Brothers, if anyone is caught in any transgression, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. Keep watch on yourself, lest you too be tempted. Notice the goal: restore. Notice the tone, gentleness. Notice the warning. Watch yourself. That verse assumes believers will sometimes confront sin, but it demands humility while doing it. It mirrors Matthew 7 perfectly. Remove the log, then help with the speck. Now here's where the emotional weight lands. When you correct someone, what is happening inside you? Are you grieving over their condition, or are you enjoying the opportunity to point it out? Be honest, because condemnation feels powerful. It makes you feel elevated. It creates distance between you and them. It whispers, "At least I'm not like that." That whisper is exactly what Jesus is attacking. In Luke 18:11-14, Jesus tells a story about a Pharisee who prayed, "God, I thank you that I am not like other men." Meanwhile, a tax collector stood far off and said, "God, be merciful to me, a sinner." Jesus said the tax collector went home justified. Why? Because humility attracts mercy. Matthew 7:1 is not lowering God's moral standard. It is raising the humility standard. It is forcing you to confront the condition of your own heart before you open your mouth about someone else's. And here's the reality Jesus is pressing into your conscience. If you demand perfection from everyone around you, what will you do when your own imperfection is exposed? If you build your identity on pointing out the failures of others, what happens when the spotlight turns toward you? The measure you use will be measured to you. Matthew 7:10. That is not poetic language. That is a principle. The standard you normalize becomes a standard you live under. So pause the next time correction rises in your chest. Before you speak, ask yourself, have I examined my own heart? Have I dealt honestly with my own weakness? Am I speaking to restore or to rise above? Because there is a kind of judgment that heals, and there is a kind of judgment that hardens. One reflects Christ, the other reflects pride. Matthew 7:1 is not telling you to close your eyes. It is telling you to cleanse your heart, remove the log, then, and only then, you will see clearly. And when you see clearly, you won't speak with superiority. You'll speak with mercy. And mercy is the mark of someone who understands the gospel. So the real question is not whether you judge. The real question is this: when you judge, does your heart look like Christ? This understanding comes directly from the surrounding verses and the situation being described, not personal opinion. Scripture explains Scripture when we read it in context. When we understand Scripture in context, its meaning becomes deeper, clearer, and more powerful than we first realized. What do you think this verse really means? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if there is a verse you have struggled with or something in Scripture you want explained, tell me and we may cover it in a future video. Thank you for studying Scripture with us.